lots of weird things happen to kids all the time, all around the world, every day. I have something to show for it. So it's nice. I don't really like the pursuit of it. Like what it takes
the whole process,
yeah,
auditions,
exactly.
Meetings,
I don't like being on the circuit kind of thing.
Macaulay Culkin has just pulled back the curtain on what goes on behind the scenes in the industry, particularly when it comes to children.
It is absolutely sickening how silent Hollywood is about this new Sound of Freedom movie, which is a Christian-based film that exposes child trafficking. There is no media coverage about it, and no celebrities except for Mel Gibson, who already has been blacklisted, endorsed it. Not to mention Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon all turned it down from streaming on their platform. It seems to have Satan completely frightened, so naturally I went to go see why. Not only did this film open my eyes to the complete atrocities that the elite are engaging in behind closed doors, but it completely exposes their playbook and how they lure victims in. It is absolutely baffling how these celebrities are so quick to hop on every single woke social justice issue, but when it comes to child trafficking, there's crickets across the entire industry.
One of his friends, Elijah Wood, has also been very outspoken about the child sex epidemic in Hollywood. Back in 2016, Elijah Wood opened up about child sex in Hollywood, saying, "If you can imagine it, it's probably happened." This conversation isn't new. Corey Feldman discussed it in detail in his 2013 book, Choreography, where he described the abuse he and his The Lost Boys co-star, Corey Haim, allegedly endured as young actors. But despite these revelations, the issue hasn't sparked widespread discussion, much like how allegations against Bill Cosby remained under the radar until Hannibal Buress made his now famous joke. Maybe Elijah Wood's words will change that. In an interview with the Sunday Times, he described Hollywood as a place full of vipers, where children are often exploited.
One thing that will forever baffle me is people's complete inability to acknowledge that there is, in fact, child trafficking. It's estimated that 15 million children in the United States alone have been physically exploited. And recently, over 500,000 unique computers across our country were found trading child images. This all came to headlines again a couple of days ago when Tim Tebow testified before Congress about the need to rescue children from situations of sex trafficking.
Wood credits his mother for protecting him by keeping him away from Hollywood parties, but he acknowledged that many of his peers weren't so lucky and were preyed upon by those in power. If you're innocent and eager to succeed, you become easy prey for people with parasitic interests, Wood explained. He likened the situation to the sex scandal involving English TV personality Jimmy Savile, which only came to light after Savile's death. "It must have been devastating," Wood said, reflecting on the impact of Savile's crimes in England. Something major was clearly going on in Hollywood too. It was all organized. There has been a whole list of people who have seemingly been involved in this pedophilia ring, and one of those names includes the much-beloved Oprah Winfrey, a woman who was also named in the Epstein documents.
Oprah shuts down sex trafficking arrest rumors. The media mogul takes to Twitter to respond to awful rumors stating she had been arrested. After finding out her name was trending on social media, she decided to address the rumors. Oprah tweets, "Just got a phone call that my name is trending and being trolled for some awful fake thing. It's not true. Haven't been raided or arrested. Just sanitizing and self-distancing with the rest of the world. Stay safe, everybody."
There was the time when many people speculated that Oprah was responsible for the Maui wildfires that saw the Maui people not only lose a lot of land, but for a lot of their children to suspiciously go missing.
How is that possible? That these people could lose their home and then lose their land?
The governor is looking at taking that land, taking ownership of that land.
Bro, what's going on in Maui right now is so sad. The state is trying to take the land. The governor came out right after the tragedy saying we're looking to see if we can acquire the land and build a memorial. Take it for the state and make a memorial? How about give the people their homes back?
The people of Hawaii do not like Oprah. She has taken so much from them, and with the recent Maui fires, she's only made it worse. Before we get into recent news, I want to remind you guys that back in 2019, we had the same problem. Oprah owns a large part of this island, and she actually has a private road. And when there were fires back in 2019, the citizens needed to use her road to get to safety. Yet she wasn't that open about letting anyone touch her land, even though it wasn't ever her land in the first place. But people were all over Twitter begging her to let the locals use her road.
If you care that much about this natural disaster in the island of Maui, how about you give some of that land back to the native Polynesians that inhabit it? Now these super wealthy and investors coincidentally want to swoop in now and try to purchase this land off of these poor people that are in a state of desperation. Back to this fundraiser, I do think it's damage control, like I said, because Oprah's under fire with everything going on. And it's a shame because even if they are doing this out of the goodness of their heart, it's hard to trust them. I don't trust the higher ups, I don't trust the elites, I don't trust the government, because we've been fooled and bamboozled so many times, especially with shit like this. Everything is so calculated and strategically done. Like the fact that these billion-dollar properties were not touched, but yet the city of Lahaina was just completely taken out. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's my opinion on the current situation in Maui. It is so sad. I want you guys to sound off in the comments, so let me know what you guys think. Am I overthinking it? Have I just completely lost trust in the system? Or are you guys on the same page as me? Are we all like kind of just over the bullshit and over the shady shit?
Now that on its own seems like pretty circumstantial evidence, right? But
something strange is going on with Oprah Winfrey's South African School for Girls.
Go look and see what happened to them girls.
So Oprah opened the school all the way back in 2007. And since the school's opening, it has been marred with many different controversies. You see, shortly after the school opened, a matron of the school was charged with touching several of the girls in a very inappropriate manner. When the crime eventually came to light, Oprah herself went to fire the school's headmistress. Then, in another incident that happened in 2011, law enforcement investigated the body of a newborn that was found in one of the students' bags. Apparently, one of the girls at the school gave birth, but there were no charges filed against her after this incident. There were also other scandals the school was involved in, like in 2009 when 7 students were suspended for harassing their classmates. And now there's a new scandal that the school is known for, as many people online have started spreading rumors that girls are disappearing from the school. According to these rumors, several students from the school have gone missing. But as of right now, nobody is sure why these rumors have started, as there is currently no news reporting that there have been missing girls at Oprah's school. Regardless, these rumors have managed to go viral all over TikTok and Twitter, and they continue to be spread to this day.
But to believe that you can take them as property and them and sell them, and it's something from the dark ages, it is just so horrific.
It was called Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, and it had girls there from grades 8 to 12. But look how weird this is. Number of students, 322. The faculty members, 666.
Oprah seems to have built herself quite an image. But once you start peeling back the layers, you will be shocked by what you find, such as her support for Donald Trump, a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life.
If you pick me, you're going to pick a winner.
It's been known for a while that the disgraced sex offender Jeffrey Epstein had deep connections with the rich, famous, and powerful. But even so, the documents released on Wednesday were still shocking in revealing just how extensive his elite network really was.
I think the nature of this kind of abuse means that you're conditioned to be silent, to be isolated, secretive, and shameful.
I feel like, you know, it was a big game for him, and we were the pieces of his game.
And you're like, I'm just not going to say anything because that's what he told me to do.
The names that pop up in these depositions and legal correspondences, originally part of a lawsuit filed by Prince Andrew accuser Victoria Giuffre in 2015, include a wide range of high-profile figures. Among them are former U.S. President Bill Clinton, who one Epstein victim claimed Epstein told her, likes them young, Britain's Prince Andrew, singer Michael Jackson, French hairdresser Frédéric Fekkai, model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, magician David Copperfield, and even renowned physicist Stephen Hawking.
Newly released documents showed Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell to deny claims that Professor Stephen Hawking participated in underage sexual acts. Hawking, the celebrated wheelchair-bound physicist who died in March 2018, age 76, was among the guests at a barbecue during a conference on the island sponsored by Epstein. The email, sent from Epstein to Maxwell on January 12, 2015, sees the sex offender ask Maxwell if any of Virginia Giuffre's friends or family would come forward to help prove her allegations were false. It is unclear why Epstein wanted to disprove the allegation, although the twisted financier was known to invite famous figures he admitted to enjoy his hospitality.
The unredacted names of about 150 people are now being made public after a long legal battle.
He asked me to dance. He is the most hideous dancer I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. Like, his sweat was like, it was raining basically everywhere, and I was just like, whoa, grossed out from it. But I knew I had to keep him happy because that's what Jeffrey and Ghislaine would expect from me. People on the inside are gonna keep coming up with these ridiculous excuses, like his arm was elongated, or the photo was doctored, or he came to New York to break up with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, come on. I'm calling BS on this because that's what it is. He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me. I implore the people in the UK to stand up beside me, to help me fight this fight, to not accept this as being okay. This is not some sordid sex story. This is a story of being trapped.
The full truth remains elusive, and the real story might be buried with Epstein or locked away with Maxwell behind bars. Even his death still raises suspicions. This is what his brother has said previously.
Well, when I first heard that my brother was dead, I actually heard it on CNN. The government did not notify me, as they've claimed. I thought, okay, he killed himself. At the time, I had no reason to doubt it, and I just figured that was his decision, and I respected it. I grieved the loss of a brother, but it was his decision. But then, after the autopsy was done and all the other information started coming out, it became apparent that it was not a suicide. When you looked at the autopsy results, the photographs we have of the body, the details of the mark on his neck, compared to the way they said he was hanging, nothing matches up. If you looked at all of these facts and evidence, you would not come up with the conclusion that it was a suicide, other than the fact that Bill Barr made that ridiculous statement about it being a suicide, and the chief medical examiner, Barbara Sampson, overrode the actual pathology of the autopsy and declared it a suicide.
Let's just talk about that for a second. So I want to understand the timeline of this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did you retain Dr. Michael Baden to conduct the autopsy here?
I Dr. Michael Baden to witness the autopsy. The autopsy was performed by the city pathologist. I, as a family member, have the right to have my own pathologist be there and to conduct an autopsy once the body is claimed, if we deemed it was necessary.
And the reason I ask you that is because you just said a second ago you thought that your brother's death was a suicide, you were mourning his loss, but there seemed to be something to indicate to you, I want a second opinion to someone to observe the autopsy, right? What was the reason you thought that?
Well, because in speaking with his attorneys, they had a suicide, and they were sort of surprised that he did it. So we figured let's cover the bases and make sure we have somebody there as well. Because one of the things that's not been out there much is that a few days after death, there was a hearing scheduled to appeal the decision for bail. The first time when he was first arrested, his attorneys asked me if I would participate in his bail. And I said, yes. I said, put up my house in Florida. I knew my brother wasn't a flight risk and he's my brother. I didn't care. And then bail was denied, which is why he was in jail. And then they were going to appeal the decision for bail. And Jeffrey was putting up a pretty big bail. And they asked me for the appeal if I would guarantee his bail. And I agreed, in essence, doubling it. So there was a chance he might have gotten bail. And that hearing was scheduled in, I think, for the 12th. In a couple of days. So then I'm thinking, if he was going to kill himself, wouldn't he wait to after the bail hearing? Yeah, because if he got bail, he'd be living in his house with an ankle monitor and armed guards and cameras, so he wouldn't disappear anywhere. Not that I thought he would try. And then if bail was denied again, then it would be a more compelling argument for him to kill himself if he wanted to. But a few days before the bail hearing makes no sense at all.
So do you have a theory as to what happened here? Because, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, there's a lot of innuendo. Do you have a theory as to what happened here?
Yes, my theory is that this was a targeted assassination. I believe somebody was planted on that tier as an inmate because the Justice Department regularly plants people in prisons either for, to put snitches in to get information from prisoners or to put undercover agents in to build a backstory. So the Justice Department can plant people in the prison. So I believe, and I had been told early in the game that cell doors were left unlocked that night on the tier. I don't know how many or whose, but I've been trying to find out what other prisoners were on the tier that night. There was only 11 or 12 prisoners on that tier. So it's not like we're looking through thousands of people. And I would like to know who they were, when did they get there? Because if somebody was on the tier for 6 months already, he obviously was not a plant. And then after the death, a lot of prisoners were transferred off of that ward. So I'd like to find out who was on that tier, they got there, and where are they now? Do they actually exist?
So I guess the counter argument to that would be is if someone really wanted to kill Jeffrey Epstein, right? They had to assume he was about to talk and give information about some, high profile people. Otherwise, what would be the incentive to kill him? Did you ever get an understanding from your brother that he was going to talk about anything, that he was going to be a government witness? I mean, because I'm trying to understand what the motivation would be for him to be murdered in prison.
Well, I believe you're right. Again, that's which I tend not to do. Yes, Jeffrey I didn't speak to Jeffrey while he was in prison.
Okay.
The last time I spoke to Jeffrey was the night before he flew home when he got arrested. He called me from France and we just had a normal conversation. And the next day he came home and he was arrested. And that's the last time I spoke to him. I did not see him in prison.
And he gave you no indication he was about to be arrested or anything like that?
No, he didn't know. Nobody knew he was going to be arrested because back in a decade prior, roughly, when he got in trouble in Florida, when he made his deal, whatever that deal was, he had a non-prosecution agreement with the government. He was all behind him. All of these charges, the current charges came from back then. There was no new current charges. So he thought he was free of that because of the non-prosecution agreement. And I believe that was going to be his main defense.
And if you needed any more proof of Oprah's seemingly terrible dark side, you will do well to remember she has been a big advocate for Diddy. She has also been invited to his parties in the past. And guess what? Diddy has also been involved with trafficking minors.
You made a comment, right, saying that you knew someone that went through Jimmy Hinchman proffer agreement for a case. And the proffer agreement revealed that Jimmy Hinchman, he could have walked away if he would have given up Diddy. What you mean by that?
Well, what happened is that they had 9 different sessions with Jimmy Hinchman regarding his proffer agreement. So that means the feds went in there 9 different times to talk to him. And in those sessions, they asked him, what do you know about Sean Puffy Combs or Sean Diddy Combs? I don't think it was Puffy at that time. It wasn't Diddy at the time. But what do you know about Sean John Puffy Combs having sex with underage boy? And you got to realize, and people never think about this, that Jimmy and his brother, I think they had the same charges. But his brother walked away from that, and Jimmy gets life without the possibility of parole, I think. Which is crazy. For any charge. Nobody should spend their life in jail for charges. And just charges. But I think they try to tie him to some murders or something like that. I don't know that to be for sure. But he shouldn't spend his life in jail for no charges. Not at all. So, but they was gonna let him walk. If he'd have probably had to, for that proffer agreement, they probably would have let him walk. If he had any information regarding Puff having sex with underage boys. That the feds asked him in 2011. In 2011, brother. So what did the feds know? Because the feds not coming there unless somebody made a report or somebody made some allegations against Puff in 2011 to ask a friend of his, Jimmy Henchman, what do you know about that? But for them to ask him about that, it had to be more than a rumor. Somebody made a complaint somewhere. And the feds got hold to that complaint. Now they're going to investigate that complaint when they get people under the barrel, like they had Jimmy Henchman. That's why they asked him.
If he did know information, right, why you think he didn't tell?
Then they would ask, how do you know? And then it comes into play, whereas that if you know of anybody that's endangering the welfare of a child, and you see that, and you don't report it, you're just as guilty as the person who does it.
What do you think about Oprah's hidden agenda? Let us know in the comments below.